It's my pleasure to welcome our alumni of 2010 batch, Ms. Saupa. Very happy to see her in this position. I still remember her as one soft-spoken, very humble, my favorite student of yesteryears. And very nice to see her in this position. And as a presenter of today of maybe management principles is the topic. And I could see the participants joining slowly, around 40 to 50 participants are there. And I could see students from outside colleges as well. It's going to be a very useful session for today. I hope you will all get benefited from this session. Saupa is right now with Citibank, and for an introduction about Saupa, I request Dr. Nirmala Devi, Associate Professor of ECE Department, to introduce Ms. Saupa. Thank you, Saupa. I'll just switch off my video, okay, so that we don't have any bandwidth constraint. Welcome everybody once again, and hope you enjoy this session.
Thank you, I'm Dr. Nirmala. Good morning to all of you present here. I'm extremely happy to introduce our today's guest speaker, Ms. Saupa Soundararajan, who is the alumni of our college, who has completed her BE degree in ECE department from our college in the year 2010. She received her master's in business administration in the year 2012, and she has vast experience in marketing field from past 8 years. To name a few, she was working as a virtual business manager in Cisco Systems, as marketing consultant in Satvan, a digital marketing manager in LatentView. And also she got certified by Google Analytics, Google AdWords, and also certified as Digital Marketing Master by University of Virginia. Currently, she is working as a Digital Marketing Manager in Citibank, India. Once again, I welcome you all for this wonderful session. And I feel very proud to have our alumni, Ms. Saupa, as today's guest speaker. Welcome you, Saupa, and welcome you all. Thank you, one and all. Ms. Saupa, the session is yours now. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks a lot, ma'am, for the introduction. Even I'm extremely happy to be one of the presenters for today. Okay, so hello everyone, good morning. I will just start sharing my screen. Just give me 1 second. I think everyone is able to, are you all able to see my screen right now?
Yes, Saupa, we are able to see. And just one point I want to say, questions, if there are, please put in the chat box, in the question and answer chat box that is below. Please don't interfere in between the session. This is for everybody who is participating. These queries will be answered at the end of the session. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. So, hello everyone. The topic for today's webinar is Importance of Principles of Management. I really hope to share some valuable information with you all, and I also want to make this session slightly interactive rather than having like a one-hour monologue where I'm just continuously talking and sharing information. So I want to start this webinar with a question for you all. And as Kavita ma'am said, I think you can all participate by typing in the chat box. So let me put forth a simple question. So I just want you all to either agree with me or disagree with me on the statement I'm going to share. So the statement goes like, management is not essential for engineers because engineering is mainly about having strong and sound technical knowledge. So ideally, when you are all working, it would be more than enough if you just get trained in the required technical skill sets and you just apply your skills on your job. So the logic is simple. Say, for example, you're joining a company as an electronic circuit designer immediately after engineering. And on your job, all you're going to do is you would be designing high-end electronic circuits for various industry challenges. Or say you're going to become a software engineer, and then your major role would be just coding or testing. So my question here is, why do you need management? So then basically my talk or webinar would be relevant only to those who are aspiring to take management as a course after engineering. So now tell me, do you all agree with this statement or disagree? You can answer in the chat box.
There's one answer which says agree, management is equally important. Other one, my student of 6th semester says disagree. And one more person, Lubna Riyaz, says I disagree. One of our students, Aparna of 6th semester, says disagree. And Nirmala ma'am says agree.
Okay. Okay. So I think now we have a few agree and few disagree. Actually, I would, as in this is good to know that many of you agree, disagree also with the statement. Can any of you type in the reason why you would agree or disagree? I will maybe give a minute so that we have like more participants to say either agree or disagree, and also maybe put forth the reasons why they agree or disagree. Okay, so we have a few, okay. So because we need to handle your colleagues and bosses and co-workers. That's definitely right. Engineers should also be a good manager. Okay. Okay, thank you everyone for the responses. So now we'll maybe we'll continue. Just give me 1 second. So the reason why management is important is because I would say no man is an island. I am sure that most of us would have heard the statement before. Human beings do badly when we are actually isolated from one another. And we actually need a community to thrive. So say, for example, actually, even during the current phase, I'm sure we're not all very happy with the social distancing. Yes, we're all following it because it's a necessity. But no matter whether we are an introvert or an extrovert, we all need some level of human interaction. And moreover, it is not possible for us to single-handedly achieve a lot of things. One may be a great R&D expert, but the same person cannot design, manufacture, promote, and sell all the solutions that we design. Another person might be a great salesperson, but he or she may not be able to design circuits. And another one might be good at programming for the circuits and so on. So what I'm trying to tell you here is that each one has expertise in a particular set of skills. So that is the reason why companies exist. So for an organization to be successful, effective coordination and management of different departments, say like marketing, sales, R&D, manufacturing, finance, HR, etc., is necessary. So I would say it is important for each of these functions to work in sync. And it is because of this coexisting nature, team management, people management skills come into picture. So, okay, say you graduate and join an electronics manufacturing company as an engineer, or you join an IT firm as a software developer. So basically what I'm telling is that you're starting as an individual contributor. Still, I would say it is important for you to work in sync with your team members, and it's important for your team to manage resources effectively. So I would say this is why management is essential for everyone, irrespective of the role you're in. Yes, the level of management, Yes, the level of management skills required would vary from job to job. So for example, like you see in this picture over here, as we move from step 1 to step 5, the weight given to managerial tasks reduces significantly, starting from resource capacity, resource allocation, and finally to personal work management. So when you join an entity, management is essential part of every single role. Only the degree varies. So as you move up the ladder, the managerial skills and principles required on the job would grow multifold. But as we can see, there is no such level where you can say management has zero presence. Someone like a CEO or a managing director would devote majority of his time and efforts towards managing the entity. But on the other hand, as you move towards step 5, the individual contributors would mainly have to plan and manage their day-to-day tasks and coordinating with their team members. So another reason why management is essential for all of you is that even though you might join as a software engineer or a technical expert in the beginning, I'm sure over the years, most of you would actually grow up to become team leaders, you'd be managing teams. And at that stage, knowing key management principles would become extremely essential for your job. You would then have to manage time, resources, and cost effectively to ensure that your team succeeds in achieving the objectives according to the scope. Okay, so now we've seen a brief overview of what management is all about and why management is important. So having seen this, I now want to ask you all another question. Do you consider management as an art, or would you consider it as a science? Again, you can type it in the comments section. I'll give you all another minute. So yes, I have few answers which say it is an art. Okay, Ms. Abhinaya rightly says it's both art and science. It's an art which we can try to make science. Okay, yes, good. Science and art, okay. Okay, okay, management is an art. Okay, so I have a few responses. Thank you everyone for responding. I feel, okay, I have done Prabhati saying, I feel learning the science helps you learn the art of management. Yes, definitely, that's right. Okay, thank you for your responses. So I would say all your answers are partially right. Yes, it is both art and science, but I would also like to add another dimension to it, craft. So management is an art because it requires a level of creativity, it requires vision and practical knowledge. It is also science because you have a lot of theories, principles, predefined methods that can be applied in different situations to basically manage things. And then finally, I would also say it is a craft because no matter how many principles we read about management, it can only be mastered with experience and over time with practical learning. So that's the reason why I've added another dimension, which is craft over here. So here is the quote by the management expert, Henry Mintzberg. So it goes like, management is above all a practice where art, science, and craft meet. Okay, so I want to now show you all a short video that talks about the history of management and how it has evolved over the years.
Doctor, the audio is not audible, actually.
Okay. So like mentioned in the video, there are three widely known classical studies of management. Scientific management, which focuses on individual workers' productivity. Then bureaucratic management, which focuses on overall organizational system. And finally, administrative management, which focuses on the functions of management. Actually, most of the classical theories tend to be very rigid. And they take workers as just resources to get the job done, and they lack various elements like human focus and employee satisfaction. Over time, management has also evolved. And we have the modern management theory that basically considers a worker does not just work for money, they work for satisfaction, happiness, and also for a good living lifestyle. So I want to show you all another video on modern management. So as seen in this video, modern management follows three streams. First one is quantitative approach that emphasizes on the use of statistical models and mathematical techniques to solve complex management problems. While the second one is systemic approach, which is based on generalization that everything is interrelated and interdependent in an entity. And the third concept, or the final one in this video, is about contingency approach that basically accepts the dynamics and complexities in an organization structure. A company is affected by the environment, and the environment is composed of physical resources, climate, persons, culture, economic and market conditions, and various laws. So I am now going to take a very simple example of a day-to-day task in a digital marketing field. The task is pretty simple. So it is either posting a video on social media, advertising basically, or sending a communication via SMS. So give it some thought. How would you think this simple task would be performed in a company? It can be a startup or a large enterprise or an organization. So I'm just giving you a few seconds to basically think about it. And we'll continue discussing about the task. So once you all have given it some thought, and you would have framed the steps involved in this process. And if anyone wishes to type, you can type in the chat box. Choosing the best way to advertise. Yes, of course, that would be an important step. Thanks, Aparna. Okay, so basically this task seems quite simple, correct? However, I would say this seemingly simple task of just sending an SMS or an advertisement on social media is not as simple as it sounds. I have basically briefly in this slide listed the various steps involved in this task if you're doing this for a company. The level of complexity and the teams or number of individuals involved in each of these tasks would actually vary based on the type of company you're working for. For example, if you're working in a startup, you may be doing a lot of these tasks single-handedly. On the other hand, if you happen to work for a large enterprise, then you would have to collaborate with multiple teams to ensure that this communication is finally sent out. So now let us look at it step by step. The first step would be to basically define your objective and target audience. So you need to actually start by asking why are you doing this? Why do you want to advertise on social media or send an SMS? Whom do you want to send the communication to? Or who would be your audience? The answers may vary, and you may want to promote to increase sales of a particular product, or you may want to increase customer management, consumer engagement, etc. Now, having answered the question why, we need to then take a look at whom are we going to send this to? What is the demographics, audience location, which gender do you want to target? What would you want their customer activity to be? So when I say customer activity, what I actually mean is that you might want to define the audience based on their recent purchases. This way you can look at cross-selling or upselling to these customers. So basically what I'm saying is here you need to first start by defining the audience segment. And once you have these details, then comes the actual messaging you want to send them. So the messaging will primarily depend on your objective. So if you want to cross-sell a product, you would be sending them a promotional message about the new product you want to feature. You will then have to plan and allocate budgets for this campaign. A certain portion might go into designing the video and a certain portion in advertising and so on. It is important for you to decide the budget and plan the campaign based on that. So now once you have the objective, message overview and budget planned, you will have to basically present this proposal to your sponsor within the organization to get it approved. The sponsor may be within your department or they may be from another department like a product team or a senior management, etc. So you will have to first sell your idea within your company before you even start implementing it and start sending the message to the external audience. So once your proposal is accepted, the next step would be getting the actual message created or the video designed. So even if it is an SMS, it is not just simply the text that you need to design. You will also be adding links. You will have to decide how you're going to track this particular message. You're going to track clicks or what are the actions that people take on this SMS, etc. So many companies would actually take agency help to get creatives designed when it's a video or image or posters. So while planning your budget, the agency fee or charges for designing the video will also have to be factored in. You will also have to simultaneously work on connecting with your data management teams to get the actual audience database. So once you have the messaging ready and the audience base ready, you will first have to send test communications within the organization. And based on the inputs from your team members or co-workers, you might have to incorporate certain changes. And if there are any errors, you might have to correct it and so on. Okay, after so many steps, we have finally reached the step where we are going to send the actual SMS message, or you're going to be posting the advertisement on social media. You can schedule this to be sent at a particular time based on the past campaign performance data. As in you would know when your customer base would be more active. So you would be targeting to send the communication at that particular time. And the last and final step would be post-campaign assessment. So this is basically done to understand the performance and impact of your campaign. So this is one of the key steps, I would say, because understanding the performance metrics is extremely important when you're going to plan your future campaigns. And all these steps, depending on the company you join, you may be, or the job you may be doing, you would be focusing on 1 or 2 steps within this. If it is a large organization, and on the other hand, if you're joining a startup, you might have to do a lot of these steps. So this is the role of a digital media person. So whatever be the case, a lot of aspects of management comes into picture within this simple task of sending a message, I would say. The first foremost would be team management and people management. The first and foremost task would be people management. So within this task, you will have to coordinate with multiple teams. It might be getting your proposal approved from another stakeholder or the person in the organization, or it may be with your data management team who's going to share information on your target audience, or it may be your analytics team who's going to give you a campaign analysis dashboard for you to understand the performance, and so on. The next factor comes the time management. You need to ensure and plan that the entire time frame for this campaign, right from the first step to the final step where you know the performance. You need to manage the resources available, be it connecting with your agency or getting them to deliver your hours, or deciding on the SMS bandwidth to know the number of communications you can send, and so on. Finally, budget planning. I think this is something we discussed earlier, right? So there are so many aspects of management within such a simple task. So what I'm trying to tell you all here is that even if you are an individual contributor, you still need a lot of management skills to complete the tasks in your hand. Also, having explained the process, I want to emphasize that such a process is actually followed to ensure that there are no mistakes or communication errors while you reach out to consumers. Because even simple mistakes that you do in your any one of these tasks could cost your company quite a fortune. For example, say you send a wrong communication to a customer and he or she raises a complaint on social media, this would result in a huge negative publicity for your brand. So even with such processes and frameworks, many times things go wrong. And maybe I can highlight one such instance with you all. This was about the lucky draw contest that we conducted, where more people were actually notified about winning the contest than the pre-decided number. So actually out of one of this customers who was notified, they did not even meet the contest criteria or terms and conditions. But still, in the end, what we had to do was we had to ensure that the prize money was actually given to all the customers who were notified in order to avoid any customer dissatisfaction or unnecessary complaints. So even this, if it was beyond the budget, you will have to end up doing this. So why I'm quoting this example is that we shouldn't think that companies unnecessarily complicate simple processes. Detailed process, such scrutiny, test checks, coordination among different departments. So extra are all necessary for smooth functioning to basically ensure nothing goes wrong or you don't end up sending a wrong communication. So having seen a detailed example of a simple non-engineering task, I also want to throw some light on the role of management and engineering. So even when simple tasks like sending a message or a communication involves so many steps that we just saw, so many aspects of management. So what I'm saying here is things like engineering, product design, R&D are all way too complex, and the resource and people management skills are extremely vital to be efficient on the job. For any product design or enhancement, the first step would be requirement analysis. So this is a step where you try and understand what is the feature enhancement you're looking at, or what is the product you want to design. How relevant would this be for your customers? Will they find it to be a key feature that substantially helps them in solving their problems? Or will it just be a minor enhancement which is not going to add much value to the user experience? So this is the step where you'll be analyzing, proposing, and getting your ideas approved before going to the actual step of designing. Once you and all the relevant stakeholders are convinced that this requirement is meaningful and will add value to your customers, you will then proceed to the next step of designing and implementation. So this is basically a cycle over here, because from the last step of execution, many times there might arise another enhancement requirement, for which you will again start doing the entire process of recruitment requirement analysis to execution. So that is the reason this process is added as a cycle. So it is extremely crucial for all of you to manage, to master people management skills, to be able to coordinate among different departments, teams, to get your asks delivered. Say, for example, if you're in an implementation team, you would want the design team to share relevant working diagrams, etc. Or similarly, if you're in execution, you would want all the other teams, including testing, to work in sync and deliver a solution without any bugs or errors, so that you can finally execute the solution for your customers. So while on the job, you cannot say that I wasn't able to finish the job because another person didn't complete what he or she was supposed to do. So that is why it becomes relevant or extremely important for your job to basically motivate people to get your asks delivered. This is where people management skills is key. Yes, sometimes if the person doesn't deliver even after repeated requests and reminders, you might be escalating it to their manager or to the next level. But then you need to evaluate which are the cases where you will escalate, which are the tasks you would want to manage by yourself. Ideally, you will have to ensure you have good cordial relationship with your co-workers, both within your team as well as other departments with whom you will have to work closely to deliver results for your organization. So this might involve, being just helpful when they want certain information or metrics from your team, or it might also involve just being friends with them. I think with these two examples, you would now be clear on why we say no man is an island by himself. It is just impossible for a single person to be an expert in all the required fields, be it engineering or product design or software development or media management, anything for that matter. So in the next section, I would want to cover Peter Drucker's management principles. But before going into the details, I wanted to just share a very famous quote by Peter Drucker, the management guru. So actually, this is one of my favorite quotes. It goes like, the only skill that will be important in the 21st century is the skill of learning new skills. Everything else will become obsolete over time. I would say this is my favorite quote because I actually believe in the concept of continuous learning. When I was young, say at school, I used to think once you complete school and college, there is no need to study afterwards. I guess some of you also might be hoping for the same, but I would say that is an entirely flawed idea. whatever we study, I mean, every single thing has an expiry date. Like how the things we buy comes with a manufacturing and expiry date, I would say so are the things that we learn. What we learn today might definitely not be relevant tomorrow. When we were in school, we learned computer programs like COBOL. I don't think you guys would have even heard about such a program. Forget learning it. It is not relevant for the current times, and no one would be learning languages as old as the COBOL. Instead, you would now be learning Java, R, C Sharp, etc. But even these programs would become outdated in future, and new languages would evolve. Same is the case with management theories that we just saw a while ago. Classical management theories like scientific management and bureaucratic management are no longer relevant. Similarly, the current theories may also become irrelevant in future. The reason why I'm emphasizing on this is to basically encourage all of you to continuously update yourselves even after you graduate. Anyway, even if whatever we are going to learn now is going to become outdated, you shouldn't think that there is no use of learning this then. Foundations always remain the same. The basics still hold good with computer programs. Say someone who knows C will be learning C Sharp faster than someone who is going to start learning programming from scratch. So I would say all this learning is like a foundation for conditioning our brain to process information faster at later stages. Say like how you go to gym to train your body, we go to school and colleges to learn stuff and train our brain. So never think like, oh, this algebra, when am I actually going to use this in real life? You may not exactly be applying the same logic and equations, but learning all this will actually develop your analytical thinking skills. And over the long run, you will be able to come up with better solutions to business problems. Okay, so actually this was some generic gyan I wanted to just share with you all to break the monotony. Now let us head right away to Peter Drucker's management principles. Okay, so what are the key aspects of Peter Drucker's management theory? Drucker believed that managers should first be leaders. So he prioritized leadership skills as the most important one for managers. He also encouraged flexible timings, and he was strictly against setting a strict schedule because he believed that setting strict schedule would discourage innovation. His approach was also collaborative in nature instead of being authoritative. And finally, he also placed a lot of importance on decentralization and distribution of power, knowledge, and work. He introduced the concept management by objectives in his book, Practice of Management, as early as 1954. And actually, this still holds good. So this is one of the things that is taking quite some time and it's still not obsolete. Management by objectives is actually the crux of Peter Drucker's theory. He believed in cascading of goals and objectives from top to bottom. So what he believed was goals and objectives are set for each individual member, and this is set in such a way that the combined efforts of all the employees or all the individual members and teams within the organization will meet the company's overall goals and objectives. But how to set goals and how to measure or ensure that team members meet the goals that are set? So Peter Drucker had something for that as well. Drucker also coined the famous acronym SMART to describe how organizations should set goals and objectives. So according to this process, goals should be SMART. SMART meaning specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Only then you would be able to succeed in meeting your objectives. So majority of companies even today follow SMART goals framework to set their objectives. For example, let us take one social media campaign goal. So the goal goes like this. I want to improve customer management. Okay, so given this is our goal, how do we actually know if this goal is met or not? So basically, any improvement will be taken as a success. Say you already have 1 million engaged customers, and you just add one more additional customer to your engaged customers list. And with such a generic and vague goal, even this minuscule improvement would be actually considered a success. While in reality, that is not the case, and you've literally done nothing. Moreover, when you're referring, what you're referring to as engagement, is it a website click or a visit or a social media like or comment? So what is it that you're going to refer as engagement in this goal? So this, such a goal of saying improving engagement literally makes no sense. So what I'm saying here is that when you set such a goal, which is pretty vague in the outset, you will not know whether your campaign was indeed a success or a failure. So this precisely is where SMART comes into picture. The goal has to be specific. So now instead of saying engagement, I need to call out specific metrics, like say increase app downloads or increase website views or clicks, etc. So I have modified the goal now to be specific. So the campaign goal is to increase website visitors. Now I know what is the specific action that I want the customers to perform. But then still, I don't know how many website visits will I call as a success. Are even 5 visits enough? Or will I call 1,000 visits a success? So we need to make the goal measurable. 5%. So what I'm saying here is, just give me one second. So now we've changed the goal slightly to say increase website visitors by 5%. So now is this goal measurable? Yes. But 5%, is this achievable? Say you have 1,000 website visitors already, and by 5% you mean you're going to add 50 new website visitors through social media. Yes, that is quite achievable. But on the other hand, if your website visitors are already 20 million and you want to increase the visitors by 5%, would actually mean you're going to add 10 lakh new visitors. And achieving it with just one social media campaign might not be possible. Yes, sometimes if a campaign goes viral, you may see tremendous success, and that is not something we generally plan and predict. So while setting the goal, we need to ensure that it is realistic based on your past metrics. For now, let us take our website visitors as a nominal 2,000 and pass this as an achievable goal. So now that it is achievable, we need to check if it is relevant. So your website has product details explained clearly, and you want your target customer to visit your website, read about your products, and then purchase them online directly. So in this case, then your goal is highly relevant. Okay, so last but not the least, I think now we have a goal which is specific, measurable, achievable, and relevant. So last but not the least, by when should you achieve this goal? So if you increase your website visitors by 5% in 3 years, would you call it a success? Not really, right? So that is where time bound comes into picture. So I've again modified it. Increase your website visitors by 5% in a span of 3 months. Now, this is a SMART goal that a digital marketing team can work towards achieving. So similar goals should be set for different teams based on their KRAs, and all these goals would then flow into a larger company goal. So principles of management would basically mainly cover 4 facets mainly. First one being customer relationship management, which is key for any business to succeed. Budgeting, planning the funds and distributing it across different initiatives. Organizational culture, how management interacts with its employees and how employees treat one another. Group dynamics and people management, This is about how individuals in a team work towards achieving a larger goal. And of course, finally, communication. So finally, I want to share with you a simple tip for this subject, Principles of Management, that you're going to learn this year. So while learning the concepts, just ensure that you can relate it with some situation that would occur in the real world work environment. You can talk to your friends or people in the family. So you can basically talk to your different people in your family, whoever is working, to understand like what are the different difficult situations that they may have faced in their job. So, and you can look at relating it to key management principles. So this way you will understand what principles could be applied where, and you wouldn't find the subject boring. But if you're just going to randomly memorize the theories, yes, sometimes you might not find it interesting. So that's the reason I would suggest you basically start relating it to different situations that you might find in a real world work environment. Okay, so this is pretty much what I had to say today. I think I will now open the forum for any questions if any of you might have.
Hello, ma'am, can you hear me? Hello,
yes.
Ma'am, can you hear me? I'm Ramya, Assistant Professor of EC Department.
Hello,
there are
yes.
two, yes, ma'am, there are two questions.
Okay.
One from Ida.
Okay.
I feel if the current scenario is the beginning to a new era, there would be a big hit on managers in the corporate companies, and there would be a rise in the demand of skilled workers. I may be right or wrong. What's your opinion on it?
Okay. So in the current scenario, yes, a lot of us are working from home. I would say the relevance of managers or the importance of managers is going to increase even more than before. The reason is when you're working with a person, you just working in an organization and you see different teams and people, you can just walk up to their desk and just tell them, hey, can you please do this? Can you please draft this communication for me? Or can you please help me with this design? And you can get it done then and there. But when you're working from home, your people management skills is even more important because you need to basically try and coordinate with different teams, even though you're not going to see them in person. So I would say the importance of management would grow multifold in such a work from home environment rather than reduce. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you very much, ma'am. There is another question. Inculcating management skills will help us better in our job. That's a question.
Yes, definitely. That is definitely true. As I was explaining earlier, whatever your role is, whether you start as an individual contributor or you're a mid-level manager or right up to a CEO or a managing director, the role of management is quite important. And the skills you would have to nurture right from the beginning. Only the level would vary, as I was highlighting in the previous slides. So for every individual, mastering management skills is quite essential.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much. I'm honored to give a vote of thanks for this webinar.
One more question, Ramya.
Okay, ma'am. Just a minute. I'll just check the question again. Yeah, ma'am. There is one more question. Will degree in management will be related to a person's management skills when it comes to a fresher, or is there any other test for it?
So generally, if you want to do a management course, we have various exams. I'm sure you would have heard of these exams like Common Aptitude Test, MAT and everything. These generally don't test your managerial skills. What they basically want to look at is how is your analytical thinking, how is your language skills. So your business acumen and the managerial skills is something they are going to teach you within that course. What they want to test you on when you're joining the course is, will you be able to take those, whatever they're going to teach you. So for that, they would just want to test how strong your analytical thinking ability is and how good are you with your communication skills.
Okay.
One more
Ma'am, is there any other question? We'll wait for any other question.
One more question.
There's one more, Ma. What is the best way to manage people?
Okay, so managing people is always one of the most challenging things. So the best way, there is actually, I wouldn't say there is just a specific framework or a specific thing that you would have to follow. It is basically give and take. So whenever someone comes to you with for any ask or anything, if you take it to your best level of effort and try delivering what they are asking for, I'm sure when you are again going to them the next time, they would want to return the favor for you. And not just this, so if you're going to be sincere in what you're doing and you're delivering it, whoever is around you might actually want to help you to achieve your task. So basically managing people is give and take. It is not one way, this one. So what you contribute is what you will get in return. Does that answer the question?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Kavita ma'am, shall I give the vote of
Yes,
thanks?
yes. I think no more questions are there.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. So good afternoon to all. I'm honored to give a vote of thanks for this webinar. I particularly liked Ms. Sopa's speech, where she elaborated the need of management in the engineering in her own style. The way in which she explained the subject was extraordinary, and her slides are exceptional. Thank you, Ms. Sopa. I would like to thank all those organizing team, staff, and staff members of EC department. I must not forget to thank our beloved HOD, Dr. Kavita Balamurugan, who gave an idea to organize this management-based seminar for the benefit of the students. I also thank the students and participants from all over the country who are participating in this webinar now. Finally, I would like to thank our management and principal for being the motivation behind this program. I would like to thank once again for making this event a success. Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Kavita ma'am, actually for giving this opportunity. And I would also like to thank the KCG management and everyone for organizing this.
Thank you so much.